What's up, herbalists? This is Mason, and you're listening to the Herb Rally Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by the Breitenbush Herbal Conference. This event is one of the nation's longest-running herbal conferences and is an annual gathering for herbalists and healers of all kinds. The next event will take place on September 5th to the 8th, 2019, at the Breitenbush Hot Springs in Oregon. It's a couple hours drive from Portland and Eugene, or about an hour and a half east of Salem. People come from all corners to celebrate and learn from some of the most inspiring teachers in our herbal community. This year's speakers include Autumn Summers, Erika Galentin, Glen Nagel, Heather Irvine, Howie Brounstein, Julie James, Lara Pacheco, Missy Rohs, Nicole Telkes, Stephen Yeager, and Thomas Easley. The healing waters and ancient forests of Breitenbush provide an unforgettable setting for this gathering. Workshops, demonstrations, and herb walks appeal to all levels of students. Fine handmade goods and books will be available in the herbal marketplace. As always, there will be much joy and laughter to be shared during the talent show and raffle. That's Saturday night. One can also take a hike along one of the forest trails, a meditative walk through the large labyrinth, start the morning with an energizing yoga practice, or even receive a healing massage after a day of soaking in the sacred hot springs. The Breitenbush Herbal Conference is so much more than just a conference. It's a personal healing retreat for your body and mind. To learn more, just head to herbalconference.net. Again, that's herbalconference.net. And as usual, the link will be in the show notes. So we hope to see you there, and now on to the show. Enjoy.
2 words. Explosive dehiscence. This is going to be a quickie. Jewelweed, also called snapweed, is a common trailside plant we notice when the translucent seed pods burst and hurl clearish green seeds in many directions. It's a great party trick for sure. And here's where I put the salesy little pitch for you to pay attention to this plant. It's one of the most reputed and widely known natural remedies for poison ivy. If you're really astute and spent time down on your belly in anybody's flower garden with the low-growing annual plants, you might notice a resemblance in this seed dispersal method with the domesticated, fragile, but quick impatiens. And you would be right to guess a relation between the two. The woodland or natural impatiens is usually called jewelweed, but it can also be called touch-me-not, slipperweed, and my favorite, elfcap. Let's bring back this colloquial name in 2019, herbalists. Where is this little guy native to? I should say that by default, in contrast, I am talking about the medium, tall-leggy, clearish green, fragile, juicy-stemmed, knobby-kneed, yellow or orange-flowered forest plant. And it can also grow in edge territory. Impatiens capensis, Impatiens biflora, the 2 orange-flowering species, and Impatiens pallida, the yellow or whitish-yellow one, are native to North America. Impatiens capensis was named for the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa, by a mistaken botanist. At least we think so, and it seems to be native to North America, or perhaps both continents. From way back when there was greater contingency, I'm just being silly, and this is to say, when it comes to questions of whether a plant is native to here or there, the plants have been around long enough to have known a world much different than we know or could imagine or even simulate with predictions. Is the plant native to this continent or that? Sometimes it's both. Little bookmarks in an unwritten history of life on Earth's origins. Or the sample could have simply been mislabeled, but there's my little speculative soapbox for this episode. We also have similar species, Impatiens balsamina, in India, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, and Impatiens glandulifera in the Himalayan region also. Both have some traditional uses that overlap with traditional and current use of the North American species, but I am sure there is also much more than what I have yet learned of. So, didn't I tell you that I like to talk about how herbs work? Key constituents include mucopolysaccharides. That's the slimy stuff, folks. But to be more precise, these are complex polysaccharides, much like we find in aloe, that create demulcency, hold water to an area, and cool and soothe. When it comes to declaring any special unique active constituent of jewelweed, the name lawsone is spouted in many of the texts. This is sort of interesting because it is called a henotannic acid, meaning it has properties like a tannin, but also some other characteristics, and is named for its similarity to constituents found in the henna plant. Many sources and studies have called lawsone the active ingredient, though others have debunked this. What is my opinion? I plead plurality of constituents. It usually isn't just one constituent. Saponins. These are constituents that have a physically soapy quality. These can solvate oils or blend oil and water together because they share physical properties of both. Many of the later studies on jewelweed, though most are fairly simple, which is good actually because they approximate actual use, credit saponins as much or more than lawsone. Here is the most specific statement I have found about how it works. Robert, and this is a quote, Robert Rohs, Ph.D., a chemist at Rutgers University, may have come up with an explanation for jewelweed's effectiveness. Urushiol, and by the way, folks, that is the irritating constituent or oil in poison ivy, at least as far as we know, does its dirty work by binding skin cells and triggering the rash-producing irritation. A mere 1/1000th of a gram is enough to affect those who are highly sensitive. Lawsone binds to the same molecular sites on the skin as urushiol, and if applied quickly after contact with a poison plant, lawsone beats the urushiol to those other sites, in effect locking it out. The simple result is you don't get the rash. And this is a quote from The Green Pharmacy by James Duke, the 1997 edition. And I would say it doesn't really matter which are the most important constituents as long as the sum of the whole is something that works. But people do like to dissect and converse, so there you have it. Oh, and by the way, the range of studies comparing jewelweed to placebo found it anywhere from 0% to 67% effective. Some found it effective, but just as effective as soap. But keep in mind, it's right there. It often grows next to poison ivy, so keep it in mind, but be on the watch for leaves of 3 before you trudge into a patch just to show off your herb knowledge to your friends. It tends to grow where the soil is moist and cool, which can be in a bit of shade or part sun. And though it is an annual, it has such a prodigious seed dispersal strategy that it tends to take foot in large recurring patches. And as for practically all of its uses, you really want a fresh preparation or as close to it as possible. Some make a succus or succus of it, that is a blend or juice, and then preserve it with just a little alcohol or refrigerate it, or better yet, freeze it, as I have heard and read of some experimenting with refrigerating, and the juice does not last so long that way. So better to freeze it, and in this case, no alcohol is needed, and I would avoid it as alcohol will keep the solution from freezing. But you then thaw the frozen plain jewelweed juice when you need it. I also vote for the no alcohol method because in a couple of the really simple studies that use an alcohol preparation of jewelweed, these preparations caused minor irritation when applied to the rashes of poison ivy. How about some other uses before we finish? The next most obvious is for the sting of nettles, or urtication, since we're always stretching our herbal vocabulary. Native American and folk uses to present include soothing poison oak and all sorts of stings of the outdoors, burns and insect bites included. There may additionally be some antifungal value in jewelweed. That constituent related to constituents in henna is a naphthoquinone. some of which have the good reputation of being mildly antifungal as well as anti-inflammatory. A good combination for some trickier, though common, skin issues. The Asian species, or one of them, Impatiens balsamina, has been used for burns, scalds, and so on. And additionally, we know that quercetin and flavonoids have been identified as possible active constituents in it. Now, don't think that these make this species special. It may be special, but all plants have flavonoids, and possibly all or close to all have quercetin, which is in fact anti-inflammatory and has many applications in reducing autoimmune and allergic reactions. It is even used for seasonal respiratory allergies, quercetin that is. Some of the outlier uses, though not too hard to stomach, have to do with the digestive tract. As a demulcent, soothing the mouth, throat, stomach, lower GI tract, and eliminative organs. It is also said to be used by Cherokee as a birthing demulcent, yes, to make the birth canal more relaxed and slippery. Used only during labor, or I should say right before labor. Applied topically and drank as an infusion. And one more I don't want to lose sight of. It is recorded as an Iroquois remedy for irritated eyes. Used as a moistening and soothing poultice applied over the closed eyelids for safety. The last few uses I found associated with this tribe are febrifuge and diuretic. It may be cooling and encourage sweating and elimination during a fever from a cold or flu. It is not the first herb I think of, but perhaps if this is the remedy in your yard, you will try it for yourself one day. It is generally considered safe and gentle in moderate doses, but bear in mind could be just a bit laxative due to the naphthoquinones in it, and based on its slippery nature alone. So probably best to reserve it for respiratory flu and not during already loose digestive issues. Well, that's it for snapweed, another name. I know that a lot of people are familiar with this plant and folk and outdoor enthusiast uses of it. Do chime in with your experiences and questions. And wait, there is something really cool and weird that I almost forgot about. There's a pink jewelweed too, which is one of the other species which has been introduced to the East Coast, and I think the West Coast also. Write in any anecdotes in the comments or pictures you have of this one too. Some call it invasive, but to those I say, make medicine of it. I have not personally gotten to try that out, so with caution, know that this is Impatiens glandulifera, or Himalayan balsam, with many other names. It might be useful for topical demulcency at the very least, and probably a lot more. Thanks, herbalist, and know that you can subscribe to Herb Rally on iTunes or other podcast apps that will help you know how frequently new episodes are added and reference these from anywhere. I like to keep up listening from my phone while I run, walk, or ride, and it makes commutes seem too short instead of too long. Plus, it's kind of fun to see familiar names from our herbal community in your iTunes, such as Bevan Clare right before Beyonce, and Howie Brounstein right before Ice Cube. And while we're on the subject, don't forget to put away some jewelweed succus in your Ice Cube trays this year. That's Herb Diva and Pimp. Remember, taking care of home is still fly, and we are here to introduce you to some new things and upgrade you. Shameless pop references to snapweed. Glad to have you and keep listening.